Hey Janet,
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing better now because we're about to have a darn good conversation. I just know it.
I'm looking forward to it.
Excellent. We're going to jump right in because I don't want to miss a second of this opportunity to get time with you. So, look, first and foremost, just your whole being is so calm and so relaxed, but yet so driven and so focused at the same time. Have you heard this before? I just got to say this. We got to start here and unpack this, and then we'll get into the next thing. But tell me about how do people say you are, and which of those things resonate for you? What are the adjectives that you hear about who you are? And trust me, all listeners, honestly, there's a method to the madness, and you'll understand a little bit more why I want to start here.
Yeah, I think now, I mean, over time it's different, right? I think the leader I was probably super driven, probably somewhat selfish, my needs first. And then over time it became how do I serve others and serve the client and serve my employees? So I think adjectives are probably giving, patient, which is weird. Patient would not have been in the old description of people of Janet 20 years ago. And I think people see different versions of myself, right? I think my kids and my husband and my friends may see energy and energetic and probably not I'm not the patient friend. I'm usually not the empathetic friend, right? I'm the one that helps you get unstuck. I'm an unstucker, if that's a real word. Um,
It's our word.
but I think patient and empathetic when needed, but also pushy. And I'll take pushy. I know that could be a bad adjective, but pushy. And I think I have an ability to see strengths in people that they don't see in themselves yet.
Mm.
And once they get to trust the process, that their growth is incredible. And that's incredibly satisfying for me too.
Wow. Honestly, I think we start with pushy. I think we start with seeing the best in people and establishing that as a standard. So, Janet, I think all of those adjectives are the making of a founder of a major company. And I think it's also the reason why you can be successful, seeing that vision go and grow into something that is useful and probably even beyond your own expectations. So let's take it back to when you started BevSource. What was the problem to solve? Where did that come from? Because I suspect those adjectives that folks have kind of held up a mirror and shown back to you, a lot of those were useful in starting and founding a business.
I wish it was super strategic and I scoured the white space of the market for some opportunity and I was super smart when I was 24 years old. But it was being selfish. I needed a job. So I was at a brewery and the brewery started to go bankrupt and I was laid off and clients said, "Would you help us find a new production facility to manage our production of our beverages?" And I needed money, right? I was 24. I didn't have a husband and kids back then, and I had a mortgage to pay and friends living with me paying part of the mortgage. But so I said yes. And so we help people find new contract manufacturing for their beverages. So, um, but then it changed over time, right? To always learning and always growing and how do you do it better and then learning from the best. I think success shows us shortcuts, like study the successful people, and it's not rocket science. Just do a little bit of what they do and put your own mark on it. And I don't think I learned that right away either. That I thought I know Jack Welch, like I read all the books, right, of all the great business giants, and I thought I had to be like that. And as I grew over time, it was no, I need to be me, but
Yes.
also be authentic to myself and to the people around me, but then also have a good business sense and not let people walk all over me either, right? There's that balance. So,
So when did you figure out the parts of you that were the proven parts? The parts that would allow you to, quite frankly, when job loss is a
yeah,
situation, you're looking past that and you say, okay, I can't control that piece, but I can control these things. Um,
yeah.
when did you learn that you could trust those things? Or when you started, did you even know?
No, when I started, I didn't know, right? Like there was not a whole lot of responsibility. It was one of those things. If this works, great. If it doesn't, I can always go get another job, right? I think there's always been calculated risk and there's always a backstop for me, right? There's, like I have never jumped off a cliff and there was no going back. There's always a two-way door, right? There's options. And if people were to
But
describe
were
me, I
there
think
options, or did you just think there were options? Because
oh,
that's
I just think
what
there are
I love.
options. It doesn't mean that there were real
Yeah,
options.
yeah. I love that
Yeah.
because I think that we're we're either built a way where we see these obstacles as immovable, or you're like, there's always going to be an option, right?
Yeah.
I'm curious about if that's sort of your psyche or no, not really.
Oh, it was my psyche. My mom always said that. She's like, you always have an option, right? Like you don't have to go to bed. You
Yeah.
just can keep your eyes open all night, right? You don't have to sleep. And I'm like, oh, and then I tried to prove her wrong and keep my eyes open all night, right? But I think that was in my upbringing. You always have a choice,
Yeah.
right? It may not seem like there's a choice in there, but there's choices in there and you always have one. And so yeah, I think to your point, when decisions come up, I don't know what the other choice might be, but I know there are other ones, and then you just kind of get gravitated and you follow your gut towards the choice that, is leading you that way.
So take us to the earliest times when, okay, now you've made this decision.
Mm.
You're 24 years old. You're I mean, essentially young in leadership,
For
young
sure.
in management. Um, what does that look like? Tell me about the not so perfect parts.
Yeah, I think the not so perfect parts are you don't know what you don't know, and it's okay, right? Like, and you just keep asking for help. I didn't know what a chart of accounts was, and you just get curious and you ask lots of questions and use your network. I played volleyball with some accounting company had a team and I've asked them while drinking a beer, like, what's a chart of accounts? Like, I'm going to start a business. How do I do my accounting? They're like, oh, yeah, you just get QuickBooks. And they made it sound easy. And I was like, okay, then I'll just get QuickBooks, right? So I think you just listen and ask questions and then, yeah, you just keep going. Yeah, there wasn't a lot to lose back then either. So that was easy. It got scarier as there were more things to lose when there were more people on the payroll. And I knew that if I made a bad decision, it wasn't just my livelihood I would affect, it would be the lives of other people. And so that got scarier later.
So, what did that look like? How did you push past that fear?
Uh, it's a good question. People always say you make the best decision with the information you have at the time, right? And, you start with a foundation of trust with your people, and they know that you're just, think about COVID or 2008, the financial crisis. You're just making decisions the best that you can with the information that you have at the time. In hindsight, you'll always make a different decision, but you didn't have that information early on. And there were days where I didn't, there were days, there were months, there were quarters, there were half a years where I didn't take a paycheck so that everybody else got paid. Um, I live below my means, so I'm able to do that. Um, my husband also had a job and we were investing in real estate and things like that. So we have the ability to do so, but I wouldn't say those are like the brightest days, but one person said to me at one point when things got really bad, um, Janet, you can turn a company around in 90 days or you can kill it in 90 days. Make a decision. And that was the kick in the ass that I
That's
needed.
profound.
It was
Yeah.
profound. And it only takes 90 days, right? Like if you, and people follow your energy and your lead, right? So if your energy is sucked for 90 days, the whole company gets sucked for 90. Your energy explodes. They won't explode day one of 90, but by day 45, everybody's exploding again, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, 90 days I think is magic.
So that burden, when I think about it, the responsibility of a leader, not only in setting the vision, but also in setting the cadence, and the pace. It can feel very burdensome. It can feel exciting at the same time. What became your strategies, or what are some of your strategies to carry that burden, and to not have it absorb you and weigh you down, right? Just to kind of keep pushing and keep people excited to be moving with you. Because it's
Yeah.
so much about the people's belief in you and the
Yeah.
energy that you're sort of bringing up, right?
Yeah. I don't, my personality type isn't that I take it all in and it lives in my heart and my gut. And then I have digestive issues. Like I'm grateful that that is not how my body absorbs stress. My body absorbs stress by getting more curious, which is weird. Just asking more questions and how could I do this differently? Like I was the person stuck,
Picturing
and
your mind as a maze and
yeah,
never seeing like the end. You're always just like, okay, well, that just means I can't go there. I keep going. So you're
that's right.
not absorbing
That's right.
this. That's a freaking superpower.
That is a superpower. And I think that's my new
Awesome.
superpower, right? Is like I can unstuck people because I've been stuck so many times that I had to ask so many questions to get out of the maze. And
Yes.
I might have had to go backwards to go forwards again. I think that's a great analogy, which is funny.
Love that. I just got chills thinking about it. Seriously.
Yeah. Yeah. Our actually real estate investment company is called Sona Investments, and our little logo is a maze. So getting out of the rat race.
I did not know that.
But yeah, but I think because I was stuck so often, it wasn't like I don't internalize it. I find energy in finding the solution instead of taking the burden and wallowing in kind of what the burden could mean for others. I don't spend much time there. We always talk about we can always give ourselves like a 24-hour pity party, right? Like something might happen, an employee quits or something. You think it's devastating, right? Like especially when we were small and like we were 5 or 6 people and one person quits, it's like, oh my gosh, that's like 20% of the staff.
Mhm.
Okay, so give yourself a pity party for 24 hours and then get out of the maze, right? Like, but don't sit in the pity party because that's not helpful.
Mm. I tell you, what I hear loud and clear as I listen to you, and I'm sure others do as well. When you think about successful founders and leaders of businesses, a lot of times we focus on the what they did, right?
Mm.
And we want to jump in and say, okay, what'd you do? How'd you think about starting it? To your point, what thing were you solving for? And the precise hows. What I'm hearing loud and clear, and I wonder if others are as well, is mindset.
Mm.
Chills. Because I think that that emotes a whole different thoughtfulness around, is it for me? And can I do it? Right? Because if you have a mindset
Mm.
that is not lending itself to seeing the obstacle to a point of obsession, and if
Yeah,
you have a mindset
yeah,
of knowing that there's something behind you that has your back, and that's going to be an option, whether it's real or not, it changes the game.
yeah. And I agree with you. I think mindset seems to be like an overused word. Like, I don't know, the kids doing mindset at school and things like, but it's so true. I was blessed with a great upbringing with a mindset from my parents, right? You always have choices. So I had a good foundation. Um, but then, yeah, Sean and I, my husband and I, we do a lot of Tony Robbins stuff because it's like a muscle. You can't go to the gym once and think that you're going to be ripped, right? So you have to continue to practice mindset practices over and over again. I mean, you go into battle, you march like this, right? Because you've marched like this for 1,000 hours, right? And so when those situations came up that were difficult, your mind already knows how to get out of it
Yes.
as opposed to going backwards and wallowing in something else. So, yeah, I think mindset is key to anything. And that's whether you're in a leadership position or a non-leadership, you're a mom, you're
Yes.
anything.
Yes. Yeah, that's right on. I love it. But I do want to acknowledge that um
But it takes time.
it
It takes
takes
time
time.
and it takes money, right? Like, I mean, it doesn't have to take money. If you want to meditate every day, that's cheap. I think I was reading that book called The Happiness Hypothesis. And, you know, we all want a magic pill, right? Of some sort. And
Especially
if I
now.
could tell, yeah, if I could tell you, if you spent 10 minutes a day and it was free, you could have the same as some sort of antidepressant medication. Now, everybody wants to take the antidepressant, right? Um, but happiness is there. It's just having the right conditions around you and then waiting for your mindset to realize that you're already happy.
Have you ever been in a situation where the environment challenged that thinking at all?
Hmm.
And what do I mean by that? So I know for me, there can be moments where I am 100% centered and I'm very, very clear on point A to point B.
Hmm.
But, and this is where mindset comes in, I can find myself in a predicament where there's so many things that are happening around, right?
Yeah.
That are out of control. Um, have you
That,
ever had
yeah.
to sort of navigate and push through that kind of stuff or no?
Yeah, absolutely. So like there's time and you start to know yourself over time, right? There's times where like I've been incredibly angry, which reminds me of the old Janet from 20 years ago because I used to get angry a lot. So it gets better, right? Over time.
Yep.
I get really angry and like I give myself my 24 hours of pity party, anger party, whatever you want to call it. And then I really try to find out why is this happening and what can I learn from this now? And I know that whatever skill I'm developing in that moment, it's going to serve me in the future. So, one of my favorite phrases, God doesn't give you patience, he gives you opportunities to practice patience, right? Like you're not given these things. You have to go through the anger or the hurt or the suffering so that you can develop that skill so that it's going to show you you're going to need it. You put it in the toolbox and then
Mm.
you get to pull it out later, right? So I try and really focus on why is this happening and why am I angry and how did I get out of this anger so that the next time I'm angry I can do it faster, get out of it.
Mm.
Um, so I know it sounds like foo-foo that that's what happens, but if you can get to that practice of I'm upset,
Mhm.
what am I trying what is maybe God trying to teach me right now,
Yeah.
and then be grateful for that lesson. Maybe you get some sort of disease or something like, okay, what am I being taught? Oh, maybe I'm being taught to slow down and pay attention to the relationships in my life. And and then you get to do that again probably in 10 years. So
So there's a holistic piece about seeing it that way and living your life that way. And I truly know, I mean, you can say it sounds foo foo. I know you and I know that these are anchors and pillars for you. So it's not foo foo at all, it's actually an action.
yeah.
Um, you know, coming through selling a company, and I would imagine coming in at 24 years old, figuring it out, allowing it to teach you along the journey and
Mhm.
seeing it become successful enough for someone to say, I value that too, and I'm willing to pay you for it.
Mhm.
That's huge.
Mhm.
I would love to hear what's the mountaintop moment and thinking at that point. What is that? What does that look like?
Yeah, so taking on investment from private equity wasn't the pinnacle for me, which you would think would be.
Mhm.
It was actually, taking on private equity investment, leading the company for another 18 months or so, brought on three great acquisitions, great partners, and going to the annual company meeting, having Shaletta Burnbridge, who's amazing, do our motivational speech, strength finders, and you could feel the love in the room.
Mm.
I knew that was my time. I knew there was nothing left I could teach this team any longer, right? Like
Wow.
I've taught them love, and I knew that they knew how to embody love and teach others love. And that's when I knew it was my time to exit as CEO.
Wow.
So
That's huge.
I called my husband the next morning and crying, of course, and I was like, I think it's time.
Girl, if you've never heard that you are anchored in your purpose, and confident in it. I just need to be the one from the cheap seats to say that that is.
Oh, you're in the arena, honey. You're in the arena.
But man, and that's why I'm drawn to you, right? Because um it's clear you get it. You
Yeah.
get it.
Yeah.
More than you get it. The word that I want to say is you receive it.
Hmm.
Because I think that it's a big responsibility, even bigger than anything else,
Yeah.
is recognizing the imprint that you're leaving on others
Thank
and
you.
recognizing when you've done your part and it's time
Yeah.
to move on to the next thing. So then you moved on to the next thing, and that I feel like explored even new aspects of love. And this time it was love and philanthropy and charity
Yeah.
and reaching out to communities that would have never known your name. Like tell us a little bit about that bridge, that journey of a founder and exiter as yourself that said, okay, it's not over, it's not done, there's something next,
Yeah.
and what that sort of shift and pivot looked like for you.
Yeah. I think being able then to retire as the CEO that I founded a business, I get blessed with some time to reflect on what that journey looked like, um, and continued to go to seminars, and I'm part of YPO and went to like the United Nations some summit, and there was a great speech,
You're
and
a
there was
badass, but
thank you.
no
Um,
kids listening.
but I learned that like, and it was repeated over time in my BevSource journey that I'm a catalyst, right? Like I like to start things. I don't always love to finish them, right? Like I'm good at finding champions then to finish them. So I'm a
Yes.
good catalyst. I think I live without fear. If the idea doesn't work, then I don't care, right? Like I really don't internalize that. Um, you
Again,
know,
your superpower. I'm just saying.
yeah, like I just unmaze it and be like, oh, well, if we try and start Black businesses beautiful and that doesn't work, then we'll, I don't know,
We'll go from there.
we'll create an online portal, or I don't know, we'll just try something like, then it didn't work. Great. That's more information gathering. Um, but yeah, so like really, you know, taking my catalyst power to other locations, right? So supporting Give Us Wings, a community in Africa, smaller board. It's, we consistently are at 400,000 in revenue for this small charity, and it's all about
Incredible.
creating the love on the board of directors with the staff and, core values, all the business things. But it's, like you said, putting it in action
Mhm.
is super fun. And so like the board now I feel really like been doing that for about a year and a half. The board's feeling great. They're ready to move forward. The staff in Africa is amazing. Like everybody's energized, and now I can hand it over to the champions, right? So similar with the work at Junior Achievement in Minnesota, we started a program called 3DE, and of course Janet wants to do everything faster. They're like, we should start with one school, and I'm like, how do we get to 10? Why can't we? Like asking the question. And for an entrepreneur, leading that board when it's the, CEO of US Bank and other big wigs like Ashantra Powell being the,
Oh, here I go.
yeah, the
That's
big
right on.
management
Call
folks.
it, girl. Call it.
Yeah.
Claim it.
But it's intimidating. I was like, you want me, crazy entrepreneur, to lead this board? They're like, yes, we do. We know. We know that you unstuck and you move things forward. And then I know that it's also time for me to leave. But I also know it's an important step that I have to find champions then to continue that energy. And so that's also part of my strategy is replacing myself on boards with people that have just as much love in their hearts in order to keep that momentum going.
I love that. Honestly, you embody all of it, and I think it's certainly something that you should be proud of. I think these are superpowers that you continue to keep giving. So tell us, what would you say are your biggest leadership lessons in your journey, or maybe even better than that, how has your definition of success changed?
Hmm. Yeah, as a kid, success was money, right? Like my grandpa, I told him, I think when I was 7, I was like, I'll be a millionaire by the time I'm 30. And when I turned 30, I said, Grandpa, I'm not there yet. Give me another 5 years. Um, Success was money. And yes, and I was always the one playing the banker in Monopoly. And, we'd play house as kids, and I would, pick the kitchen so that I could charge my brothers and sisters for food. Otherwise, they wouldn't eat all summer. Um, so it was always money. Uh, and that drives you to a certain point. But then, as the business started to develop, where I found great success was when customers were raving and employees were raving. And those were the stories that rave my heart, or, that make my heart warm, right? Um, yeah, I think there's a quote recently that I read. It's, better than sharing your riches is helping people find their own riches,
Wow.
their own talents. And that's what's really powerful.
And I think that helps you to get more.
For sure. Yeah. And I think if you, back to kind of holistically, how do you do it, right? Like you have to take care of yourself. I did not early on, right? Like you eat junky food and you don't work out. And I know that all sounds cliche, but the more you can fill yourself,
Yeah.
and because that's not the way that I grew up, right? Like it's selfish to spend time working out or to go get a massage or do whatever makes you feel good.
Mhm.
But what I've learned is when I'm full, I have more to give. And
Yes.
so even in the business, like when I would have hard days, I'd talk to my head of HR and, this person, the things, right?
Yes.
Like this person, that, or,
Yes.
and she goes, Janet, have you worked out in the last week? And I'm like, okay. She's like, call me back after you work out. I'm like, okay. She knew when I got ornery, it's because I wasn't taking care of me.
Wow. That's it.
That's it. Yep.
All right, sis. We got some rapid fire questions because I
All right,
think
let's do
this
it.
will help us to unpack a little bit more of that mindset that's yours. One thing you wish you knew at the start of your career. One thing.
Hmm. One thing I wish I knew that I didn't realize that the relationships early in my career are the deepest friendships I have today.
Oh, yes. You're in the
So those,
trenches. You're in the trenches. And the
yes,
emotional components of that, man, I tell you.
the deepest relationships are those people, right? And it's the dinners, like all the, you go to the dinner and you're like, I don't want to go to the dinner. And then you go to the dinner and yeah, so like all of my old friends are now the CEOs of some of the biggest beverage companies, right?
Yep.
And that's because we were in the trenches. We were in the arena.
And I think you're telling too, especially it's graduation season right now. If you're listening to this podcast during the taping, and with so many commencement speeches being done, I think that is something that the younger should really, really pay attention to because you step out and you're starting your career and you feel so inexperienced and so unsure of some things and you feel so confident and so super knowledgeable about other things, and what you're going to find out very soon is that you know less than you think you are in some sense, think you do in some instances, and more than you think you do in others, right? And at the end of the day, it's who you show up as and
Yep.
how you focus on those relationships that you're developing, those new connections. That's what you're going to look back years later and acknowledge that to your left and to your right are some pretty phenomenal people, that you wouldn't have had if you would have not been present and aware
That's
of
true.
yourself.
And it is hard, especially when I was young, right, to show up, to go to networking events, like go to the Minnesota
Yes.
Chamber of Commerce, like what the
Yes.
show up,
Show
get
up.
uncomfortable. Life will make you uncomfortable. And if you're uncomfortable, that means you're growing.
So I think I already know the answer to this then because you kind of went there. Coffee or connections? What fuels your career more?
Oh, connections.
All
I'm a
right.
connection.
And
Yep.
then
So don't have a if you have a coffee with me, I'll send you 7 emails after this. I'm like, oh, and then Friday, I also thought of this person, and then I was at this other thing, and this person, and like, I don't care if you follow up with any of them. I just have lots of Janet ideas that I will connect you with, and then it's up to you if you
and
want to
I
walk
can tell you that is true, 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 true that.
through that.
Last one, and then I'm gonna let you go. Morning routine must have.
I work out.
Mm.
Currently doing well. water, lemon juice when I work before I wake or first thing when I wake up, go to work out, come home, we have celery juice,
Yeah.
and then take the kids to school and be present and listen to them as we take them to school.
Wow. All right, sis. Thank you so much for your
Thank you.
generosity in
Yeah.
sharing the mindset of a founder, a grower, a seller of a business, and then also really starting to point us to what's next. And
Yeah.
the beautiful part of your journey, your story, is that you're constantly positioned for the what's next because you
Yes.
don't see the wall at the end of the maze. You're
This
just,
is next.
yeah, this is next.
This is
So,
next.
girl, woo! And
Keep
I'm
growing.
excited about what's next because
Keep growing.
we're that's what we're doing together.
If you're
We're
not growing, you're
accountability
dying.
partners. I'm so excited to share you with others. Although selfishly, you're not really theirs. You're mine.
You're mine. I
Thank
love you.
you. I'll see you later.
All right.